Apparently, you have a great story of failing the great Jeff Bezos and surviving to tell the tale. Could you share that story?
I do. It's both like a highlight and a low light. So I had been at Amazon about 6 years. I had become a director and I was responsible for launching Amazon's app store. And so we were building an Android-based app store to go on Google phones and eventually on the Kindle tablets. And we got to launch day. And at that time, Jeff used to write a letter introducing new products. He would write a letter that said, "Dear customers, today Amazon's proud to launch blah, 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 and it's got these great features, and I hope you really enjoy it. Thanks, Jeff." And we would take down all the sales stuff on www.amazon.com, and that letter would fill the whole screen. And so he had written a Jeff letter, and this Jeff letter emphasized a particular feature of our product that he really liked. So that's something that made it a little different. And that specific thing was we had a button called Test Drive that you could click on and it would open the app in a simulator in your web browser. So you could check out the app and interact with it before putting it on your phone. So he thought this was really cool and he was all about it. Well, my team had built all this technology. We had Test Drive working. It was kind of a hard piece of technology if you think about simulating any of thousands of arbitrary apps. And we worked all night to launch it. And it wasn't quite working. At 6 a.m., we were still debugging. Now, you know engineers very well, and I'm sure most of your listeners know about engineers, even if that's not their discipline. We always think we're this close to finding the last bug. So about 6:15 a.m., I get a message from Jeff that says, "Hey, I woke up. Where's the letter?" Because it was supposed to go live at 6 a.m. right after the markets in New York would have opened at 9 a.m. Eastern. And he says, "Where's the letter?" And I write him back and I say, "Well, we're working on a few problems." But what I'm thinking in my head is, get in the shower, get in the shower. I just need 20 minutes, get in the shower.
For Jeff to get in the shower.
Yeah. And like 30 seconds later, I have an email back that says, "What problems?" And at this point, I have to start explaining. And, I end up explaining that we're having a problem with a database. And we're debugging this database problem. And he's like, "Wait, there's a database in your design? We're trying to eliminate all Oracle databases and move to AWS. Why do you even have this?" And he's just getting more and more frustrated and angry. And he starts copying in my boss and my boss's boss, who's with Jeff Wilkie, the CEO of retail. And they start asking me questions. And it's just this snowballing, but like 7:30 in the morning, Jeff is clearly angry. And there's this list of other people waking up and feeling like, well, Jeff is angry, so my job is to be even more angry. And it's just raining in on me.
Oh, man.
So what did I do? The interesting is, what do you do when the future richest man in the world is mad at you? He wasn't quite richest man in the world yet, but he was headed there. So the first thing I did was I owned it. I said, yes, it's not working. It's my fault. I will deal with it. I took ownership. And the second thing I did was start updating him very proactively and saying, here's where we are, like 8 a.m. This is exactly where we are. This is what we're going to do in the next hour. And this is when you'll get your next update. Like I will update you again at 9 a.m. So here's our plan. And even though Jeff had sort of lost trust in me, like it's down and it's not right and I'm mad, given that he agreed with the plan, he was willing to give me 60 minutes. And then I would update him again and say, okay, this is what we've done and this is what we're going to do. And we'll update you again at 10 a.m. So I was buying life 1 hour at a time. Now, the other thing I did, and this is a good thing about Amazon, as more and more leaders got copied into this angry thread, they started reaching out in back channel and saying, we've all been under Jeff's eye of Sauron. We know it's miserable. What can we do to help? And essentially, Andy Jassy's organization, which was AWS at that time, and his CTO, a guy named Werner Vogels, said, you're having a database problem. Let's get you some principal engineers from the AWS database team. And these principal engineers showed up at 9 a.m. roughly, and they looked at our design. We had made some fundamental mistakes in our database usage. And they said, it's too complicated to fix this. We're just going to give you like 500 AWS machines so that your crappy design will run anyway. That's the immediate fix. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess if you have 500 databases lying around because your AWS is a great solution, and that's what they did. So the next step is we fix the problem. A bunch of us worked together very hard to get the problem all fixed. Now, it took all day, and Jeff was still frustrated because the opportunity to sort of control the messaging in the media by having his letter up had passed. People had noticed our launch and the articles had been written. And so Jeff was still very mad. So we fixed the problem, but Jeff now had no trust in us. The weekend went by. He was using the system like looking for bugs because he's like, oh, this team's not reliable now. Ethan's not reliable. I better check it myself. So you have the CEO checking on you. And he found a problem and emailed me like Saturday night at 9:00. Like, I was doing this and it broke. And luckily I was able to tell him exactly what happened by like 9:30. Anyway, the next part of the story is that following week, I had a meeting with him on another topic. So I was part of this small group that was trying to figure out how to build a competing browser. You may not remember, but Amazon had a browser called Silk for a while. And I was invited to this meeting, but I wasn't a critical participant. So you may know this idea from Scrum where they say some people are pigs and some are chickens, and the chickens are sort of observers. I was a chicken in this meeting. And that turns out to be a great analogy because I was thinking, should I chicken out and not go? Like, I could skip this meeting with the CEO who's angry at me. But when I had that thought, I realized, if I can't face the CEO, I'd better pack my desk. Like, that's the end. So I went to this meeting early, and Jeff always sat in the same chair. So I knew where he would sit when he came in. So I sat down right next to his chair. And I thought, I don't know, let's find out. And so the meeting goes by. And of course, in my mind, Jeff is totally ignoring me, like not even looking at me. But I think that's just me projecting, because remember, I wasn't central to the meeting. So at the end of the meeting, everybody gets up to leave. He turns and looks at me and says, so how are you doing? I bet it's been a hard week. And I thought, oh, okay, we're going to talk. And I said, yeah, I just sort of answered him with, of course it's been hard, but here's what we're doing and here's what we're going to do in the future. And we had a very human conversation. And I didn't believe Jeff would have forgotten that I let him down, but it was clear he had forgiven it. So I was still going to have to, as it turns out, re-earn his trust. But the thing I did that's key for people to learn from is it's really easy to flame. He had been flaming me, right? Writing angry emails. Angry emails are easy. Sitting 3 feet from someone and being angry with them face to face is hard. And when faced with, I can either start ranting at this person who reports to me, or I can say something nice. He chose to say something nice, and that rebuilt our relationship. So the end of the story is 2 years later, I was promoted to vice president. So even though I had failed the CEO on this very public launch where he was very definitely mad at me, I re-earned the trust. I showed I had learned the lessons of how to launch more reliably without outages, and I was promoted. And so I share that story because I think what I want people to understand is if I can get away with publicly failing one of the richest and most famous inventors on earth, and then get promoted and finish my career at Amazon very successfully, you can dig out of any hole. You just have to manage it right.